What's up guys, Sam here and welcome to another merch design tutorial. Today we're going to be making a vintage heavy metal t-shirt design inspired by the band Slayer. This style of design has gotten really popular again recently, with many high street brands selling 80s metal t-shirts. This tutorial is going to show you how to achieve that vintage heavy metal style in Photoshop. Let's get into it. So I've imported the skull I want to use into Photoshop and I'm going to start by removing the background. You can do this with whichever method you like. I chose to go up to select subject and then apply a layer mask. From here I used a black brush with the layer mask selected to remove some of the extra parts of the skull. Next I've imported a stock photo of a broken pot which we are going to blend into the top of the skull to make it look cracked. To do this I've converted it to a smart object, lowered the opacity and began trying to find a position where the crack would sit nicely on the skull with a realistic perspective. By this I mean getting the curvature of the pot to line up with where you would expect the skull to also curve. Once the pot is in a good position, we can remove the background and get rid of all the blue parts with a layer mask, leaving just the crack and the inside. Now I'm going to bring up a hue and saturation adjustment layer and try to match the colour of the crack with the skull. I'm also going to add a levels adjustment layer to bring out some of the shadows on the inside of the pot. Remember to apply clipping masks to both the adjustment layers so they only affect the crack and not the whole canvas. Now we're going to bring in this cool stock image of a model brain I found, and we're going to convert it to a smart object and just remove the background like we've been doing with the other images. I also used the black brush again on the layer mask to tidy up certain areas. Now I'm going to position it and remove any parts of the brain that are overlapping onto the front of the skull with a layer mask. This is going to give the illusion the brain is coming out from inside the skull. Now we're going to duplicate the brain so we've got a backup and convert one of them to a smart object. Then head up to filter and liquify. All we're going to do here is smudge the brain to make it look like it's dripping. That part of the brain wasn't working for me, so I quickly decided to remove it before heading back into liquify. Like earlier, we are now going to remove any drips from the brain that are overlapping onto the front of the skull. This is going to make it look like the brain is dripping into the skull. After duplicating the brain for a backup and converting to a smart object, we can now bring in the hands. Luckily these are a PNG and already cut out. As you may have noticed, the hands are not symmetrical, which would make the design look a bit weird. To fix this, we are going to remove one of the hands and duplicate and flip the other hand. So now I've noticed the brain isn't quite centered, so I'm going to adjust it and repeat some of the earlier steps. Now it's time to add in our type. The font I'm using for this design is called Slaytanic, and it's the official Slayer font. For the background, I'm going to use this blue storm picture. I decided to keep it blue as I felt it really helped the reds in the finished design pop more. I decided to apply a layer mask and fade in the edges. I then added a levels adjustment layer to bring out some of the highlights in the lightning and clouds. I also used some brushes to add in some extra lightning to the background. We've got all the elements in place now, guys, and now it's time to make it look vintage. To do this, we're going to use selective colour. This really is just trial and error, and it might take a while to find the effect you're looking for, but you basically just need to mess around with each colour until you're happy with the result. To make things look vintage, you're generally making the colours look worn out and slightly wrong. This is what gives pictures that vintage bootleg style. I've got some presets ready to go for this tutorial, but have fun with it and see what you can come up with. Along with the selective colour, I'm using level adjustments and hue saturation layers to add more contrast and desaturate the images where needed to help make it look extra worn out. Hang in there, guys, we're almost done. All we have to do now is make the text pop some more. I've added a black stroke and then another white stroke, which is one of my favourite text effects. I'm then going to make a new layer and clip it to the text. Then with a black brush, change the blend mode to dissolve and use it to dirty up the type. Now it's the best part, seeing how it looks mocked up on a t-shirt. Guys, thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. Remember to leave a like and subscribe if you find these videos helpful and want to see more. Take care and I'll catch you next time.